And I just want to speak to the motion. I think the opportunities there to move the needle and creating value. Some people have asked why spend the money, and I think sometimes we get caught up on the cost and not the up, which is I'm spending money to do what, and they don't get past the spending money. And I'm not a branding expert, but if you create the value, that's when you start to see the return side, and that's when you start to see property values go up. You start to see companies that may not require incentives to come here because they just want to be here because the brokers, the site selection committee brings people here. So I think there's value in accomplishing that. And branding is a hard science. Very soft science actually, but it's hard to measure. And so I think that those sort of things are important. I'm stuck on this slide simply because I do think that this is one of the things that we have an opportunity to do, and I think that we're blessed with lots of resources to fight that with. I think that our work with Olympus tonight, with our work with Baxter, means that other site selection committees and other people who go out and look for sites for corporations, we're on the list. It's just, we are. People are going to come here and look at things because of our past success. So in some ways, we've already started to brand ourselves with some of those people. And I think this is the right thing to do. I think the business community overwhelmingly told us to work on this, on our image and our branding. To me, that's what they talk about.
I'm usually the guy, well, one of the guys, to talk about saying no to spending. And I get that. I'm very, very sensitive to spending taxpayers' money. And I'm sensitive in this case as well. However, I ran on good jobs, lower crime, better image. Those are the three things that I talked about every time. And those were my issues, and they are my issues. Lower crime helps create a better image. Good jobs helps to create a better image. And while we're seeing that good news, we're not seeing the results of that in the outside world, outside of our city. We're not, an article here and there is good, but it doesn't really get us where we need to go. So I became convinced that we needed to do this when I heard that restaurant broker story. That's why I keep talking about that, because that's where I live. That is the heart of what almost probably most of you, and every candidate who ran for city council in the last 15 years put on their campaign literature was, I'm going to get more restaurants, or they talked about it. And this is part of how we can do that. So I became convinced with that story, and so it's the poor image outside the city, and a good image will help bring good jobs and good tax-paying businesses. And when you have that, it reduces property taxes on the residents, on residential properties, and it brings more restaurants that people want. So we have a good story to tell, and it needs to be shared. We need to move the needle. And that's really what we haven't done. We haven't moved the needle. And so, for me, we need to do this. I think it's necessary, and I think it's a good investment. It's a good use of EDA money. And that's what it's there for. It's there to help create an environment for good jobs in our city. So I'm in.